All right, everybody, welcome. But Hari Prabhu, welcome to you. So we have 2 days left, and really so much more we could talk about. But we're getting into the Srimad Bhagavatam now. The sage Vyas has not only has he received the instructions from his guru Narda that you had to clarify things, you were unclear, and you need to be more clear. That's why you're not feeling. That's why inside something doesn't feel right. Your teachings have been vast and broad, and you've glorified different levels of understanding. But it's in such a way where people have a difficult time discerning what are the highest teachings. Are they all building to something? And now you need to clarify that. And specifically, he said, you have to clarify by showing a picture of what divine love looks like in transcendence, right? What does love look like in transcendence? You have to show them Krishna's pastimes, right? So now what Vyas, he heard those instructions, he went into meditation, he went into samadhi. He had a vision in samadhi. He saw Krishna as the supreme absolute truth. He saw his multifarious energies, including his material energy, and including the jivas, all of us, the individual spirits. And he saw the individual spirits, the jivas, entangled in that material energy. And he saw bhakti as the panacea for their condition. And so now he comes out of that samadhi and he's got a mission to explain devotional love as the highest principle, as the full evolution of the self, and to show Krishna's pastimes and give people that object of meditation of divine love and transcendence. Are you ready for this now? We're going to start the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we're going to see how he starts. Now, imagine, I was mentioning yesterday, when a disciple receives an order from a guru, it's like it's like what they've been waiting for, you know. It's you really feel like you have purpose and meaning, and that's how Vyas is feeling. And he's so brilliant. How will he accomplish this order? You know, he wasn't told exactly how to do it. He was going to use his own creativity, his own vision, his own devotional brilliance to accomplish this task. And so he's going to start with a declaration. And then he's going to start to tell a story. Okay, so there's 3 verses of the Bhagavatam that are kind of like a declaration. It's a declaration. It'll be he's gonna really clarify what this book is, what the point is, what he's here to show in this book that's going to be unique. And then he's going to, like a master storyteller, put his message in a story, right? By sharing it. Well, we'll see. I'll describe where he begins. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. This, by the way, is a painting of what we'll get eventually. This is Shukadeva Goswami on the left, and he's being greeted by Maharaj Parikshit, who was a king who was cursed to die in 7 days. He was a powerful, very deep, sincere, realized bhakti yogi, and he rather than trying to counter the curse on him, as someone with a more karmic mentality might do, he fully accepted it as the grace of God. And he sat down with the sages, and he wanted instruction from them. And the question was, who will give the instruction? Because there's so many qualified sages there. And just at that time, wandering transcendentalists approached, and this was Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, and all recognized him as being the person that should speak. And his speaking, what he shares with Maharaj Parikshit, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? The first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam is Bhagavatam, but it's building up to when Shukadeva speaks. And so we'll get to that either today or tomorrow. Just sharing that with you, a little preview, a little foreshadowing. Oh, we talked a little about yesterday. I got to skip this. Okay. All right. Are you all ready? I'm going to read to you the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm going to warn you, this is a very dense philosophical verse. This verse, there's so many, if you look at all the Puranas, most of them, there's not such a strong commentarial tradition. Is that a word, common? There's not such a strong tradition of commentary. They're commented on here and there, but not like Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam by far has the most commentaries on it by classic commentaries. And all of them, when they come to this first verse, they write pages and pages and pages of commentary on this verse. So much importance is in this first verse. We don't have time today, or even if we had many classes, to really fully illuminate this verse. But what we'll try to do is give an understanding of its significance. Is that okay? So let's read the first verse. It starts with an invocation. That's a mantra that you may be familiar with. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. All right, that's the invocation to the Bhagavatam, this verse, this mantra. It's significant. It's significant because what we're understanding, what is Vyasadeva doing now? Imagine that he's like, he was feeling this despondency. He was empowered by his guru. He had this vision. And now he's coming out and saying, you know what? I'm just coming out and I'm going to be super straightforward from this point on, right? I wrote books where I spoke about the absolute truth, where I was indirect, where I was abstract, where I was less than fully explicit. I'm going to be super explicit coming out of the gate. And I'm going to begin by saying, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Krishna, right off the bat. And then he follows that up with a reference that reaches very clearly and unmistakably to the Vedanta Sutra, right? Which is, again, what all Vedantins are basing their knowledge on and commenting on. And through this, he's indicating, this is my commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm sorry, this is my commentary on Vedanta Sutra. This book that I'm writing right here, you're all interested in writing commentaries on Vedanta Sutra. I'm going to write one so that you can understand what my message was all along. And so the next line, after Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, is Janmadyasya Yataha. This is the second line of the Vedanta Sutra. Right? Does anyone know the first sutra of Vedanta Sutra? Snathanji, you know? Yes. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Now is the time to inquire into Brahman. Now is the time to inquire into the absolute truth. Well, what is the absolute truth? Right? Then the next line, Janmadyasya Yataha. The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates, everything comes from. Right? Anything that we pick, we could point at anything that's within existence, that has ever existed, and we'll find that it has an origin. It comes from somewhere. There's something behind it, right? Any one of us, we were born, right? But we were born of someone else, and our parents are born of someone else, and our grandparents are born of someone else. There's always an origin, and no matter what person or what thing we trace, including this telephone, it all comes from somewhere. Except for the absolute truth. Absolute means it's not relative to anything else. It's not dependent on anything else for its existence. It's that from which everything else emanates. That's the absolute truth, right? So, Atato Brahma Jignasa, now is the time to inquire into the absolute truth. How do we understand what is the absolute truth? It's that from which everything else comes. And it's not dependent. It's svarat. It's independent. So, this is important. The Vyasa is indicating something. He's saying Sri Krishna has no other origin. Everything emanates from him. This is consistent with what Krishna says about himself in Bhagavad Gita. Aham sarvasya prabhava. Everything is coming from me, right? But here he's making this very clear in his opening line by mentioning this. So let's read the translation. O my Lord Sri Krishna, O son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth, the primeval cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. All these statements are reflecting statements, Vedic statements, statements from the Upanishads, statements from the Vedanta Sutra that speak of the absolute truth. Vyasadeva is indicating Sri Krishna is that absolute truth. I spoke about it in abstract terms before. I'm going to be speaking about it in very direct terms now. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living entity, the original living being. By him, so that means, he is Lord Vishnu, right? Lord Vishnu is him. Lord Vishnu is a manifestation of him, because it's Vishnu that communicates and invests the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Lord Brahma, giving him the ability to create the universe. Oh, that's Krishna. That Vishnu is Krishna. Okay. Next. By him, even great sages and demigods are placed in illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Mirages, right? It's by him that every other living being is put into, he's not put into illusion by anyone, but every other living being is potentially put into illusion by him. We'll see that play out in the Bhagavatam. Not only a great deva like Indra, but even the greatest of sages like Brahma, and even the Mahadeva, Shiva, they're all, we see them all placed under illusion by the power of Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. That'll play out as the cantos unfold. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Okay, he's not mincing any words here. You understand? Is it clear to everyone? Let me know. No, I guess it's not clear. If it's not, please let's talk about this. Let's raise our hands, and I'm trying to illustrate something, and it's so significant. Yes, let's get the microphone over there.
So tell me, as this wasn't the thing that you were focusing on, but the thing that catches my mind is he says that the appearance, but it's unreal.
The material realm.
The material realm. He
Yes.
says it's appearance. Now we have Srila Prabhupada saying and answers that it's real but temporary.
So it's a subtle thing. So it's real in the sense that the energy actually exists, and the energy is actually eternal. But it's because it's constantly shifting, constantly fluctuating. In that sense, it's unreal, right? Just as a reflection in a mirror is in one sense real, and in another sense it's unreal. It's real in the fact that there is glass, and there is a surface on the glass, and there's light on that surface. That's real. But if I look at that and I think that's me, well, then I'm in illusion. It appears to be me, but it's not me.
It seems, though, that when Prabhupada says something like real but temporary, we have a bias that we bring to it typically where we look through this classical lens that says it's conception of mind-independent things with a past, present, and future persisting within a cosmic warehouse of space-time, rather than seeing physical reality as a dynamically perspective, instantiated, coherent, stage, holographically encoded, geometrically consistent presentation provided by Balaram as Sandini Shakti.
That went too fast for me. I'm sorry.
Never mind. But we have this idea of stuff that we're a thing, You know, the self-luminous soul identifies with being a temporary thing, a thing that has a past and a future and a present within this giant warehouse of the universe. It's a collection of things, rather than being like a real-time sustained presentation in the present moment of like your virtual reality example. When you turn your goggle, the only thing that's rendered is what you see. But we see it like in a video game, you see me as a character in the game, I see you as a character in the game, but it's all being displayed from this in real time from this underlying non-temporal source.
Sure.
So in that sense, it's the field is real of Krishna's, the reflection energy is real, but the things themselves, we import this consciousness, like we've been raised in this idea that it's substantive and it persists. And it's there even if we don't think about it or nobody's paying attention.
But the point is, all of those details are what's covered in commentaries, right? Like I mentioned, that there's this commentary tradition of taking this verse and going into all the detail. So if you were to take the vast body of the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta for that matter, you could reach all the conclusions that you're saying. You can't cram all of that into this one verse.
Seems like he does a pretty good job.
Well, yeah, but in other words, you're responding to it though. You're saying, well, is it real or unreal? And it's here it's saying it's unreal. But to go into further detail, you can look through the broader text or you can look in the commentary. We'll identify that. But my point is, the point that I'm stressing here is that Vyasadeva has had traditionally been sometimes more explicit or less explicit, and it's been confusing. He's coming out of the gate being extremely explicit here. He did it in Bhagavad Gita through Krishna's conversation with Arjuna, but here he's saying, you know what? I'm going to give you my commentary on Vedanta, and I'm going to be super explicit in it. And I'm going to identify Krishna as the absolute truth, that from which everything emanates, like that. So he's done that very clearly here. Let me just read a bit of my own writings on this beginning of the Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva has now seen the truth in samadhi. When he emerges from meditation, everything in him is clarified. He has seen the supreme absolute truth in personal form. He has seen that person's energies at work. He has seen the living beings entangled in illusion, and he has seen bhakti as the one power capable of restoring the soul to its original freedom and joy. When he saw that vision, what he saw in that vision will now be given language. And the very first words of Srimad Bhagavatam make it unmistakably clear what he intends to declare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I offer my obeisances unto Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. This is not a casual opening. It is a bold and deliberate announcement. The absolute truth is not merely an energy or an idea. The absolute truth is a person, and that person is Krishna. The same Krishna who spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, the same Krishna who stole butter as a child, the same Krishna who danced with Radha and the gopis in Vrindavan. Not one God among many, not a partial manifestation of the Supreme. These are all different mistaken ideas that one can come to. But he's declaring right off the bat, no, it's not like that. He is the supreme reality himself. And to make sure no one misunderstands what he's saying, Vyasadeva immediately anchors his declaration in the exact same philosophical language he used in the Vedas and Vedanta, Janmadyasya yataha, that from which everything emanates. For centuries, this phrase from the opening of the Vedanta Sutra has stood as a definition of Brahman, the ultimate source of all existence. With that same phrase, he now clarifies his earlier message. The source of everything, the origin of all that is, the absolute reality that the sages have long inquired into, that is Krishna. By choosing to repeat these exact words from Vedanta Sutra in his very opening line, Vyasadeva is knocking on the door of the entire Vedantic tradition with a clear message for all future seekers. I am now giving my own commentary on Vedanta, and I'm beginning at the source. He is the original cause of all causes, the source of creation, maintenance, and dissolution itself. He is abhigya, fully conscious of everything, directly and indirectly, Nothing escapes his awareness. And unlike every other living being, he is Sfarat, completely independent, self-existent, answerable to no higher cause. Muyanti yat surya, even the wisest beings, great sages and powerful devas, can be bewildered by the Lord's external energy, Maya, the power that makes the temporary world appear real. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye, Brahma, the first created being, does not generate wisdom on his own. The Vedic knowledge is first placed within his heart by Krishna himself. He is the original teacher. Vyasadeva completes this first verse with Satyam Param Dhimahi. Let us meditate upon him, for he is the highest truth. Here, he deliberately echoes the Gayatri mantra of the Rig Veda and the Upanishads, a prayer for illuminating the intellect through connection with Brahman itself, the transcendent light within and beyond. Through this deliberate link, Vyasadeva shows Krishna not as a later deity, but as the eternal highest truth revealed in the core Vedas and Upanishads. And in doing so, he also establishes the Srimad Bhagavatam as his own natural commentary on Gayatri. Okay, so is it clear what he's doing here? He's saying that I've spoken to you in these ancient texts. I'm going to use that same language. I'm going to refer back to that. I'm going to comment on that now. And I'm going to explicitly share with you that all along, I wasn't spelling it all out. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to say that the absolute truth is a person. The absolute truth has form. That form didn't come from something that had no form. It is the origin of everything. It's even the origin of the non-personal energy. It's the origin of the devas. It's the origin of all the sages. Everything that we read about as the universe unfolds is coming from that absolute truth, Sri Krishna. Okay. Now his question? Yes.
Can we assume that because he's the original form and he's all pervading, he can choose to be formless and inform and
Yes.
every whichever way?
He manifests his non-personal energy, and that we'll get to quickly, quickly in the book, and maybe we'll get to today, if not tomorrow, for sure. Thank you. Okay, now let's look at verse number 2, and I'll read about it first, or maybe I'll read it first. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. And it's important that it say that it's because it's contrasting it with the earlier literature that Vyasadeva wrote. It's saying, Vyasadeva is saying, I wrote other books that did not completely reject all religious activity which is materially motivated, right? This time, I'm going to be super direct. I'm not going to involve any of that. So again, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavat Purana propounds the highest truth. Oh, there's different levels of truth? Yes. Yes. I wasn't always sharing the highest truth. Now I'm going to share the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart, right? If your heart has some resistance, you may not be able to understand it. But if the heart is pure, Krishna said the same thing to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, Bhakto Sime Saka Cheti, because you're my devotee, my friend, Rahasyam Hetad Uttamam. Therefore you can understand this message, this mystery. Because you have no envy. Therefore, Arjuna, you can understand this greatest secret, this most confidential knowledge. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Okay, this is a big declaration. In the second verse, Vyasadeva makes his next declaration just as uncompromising. What kind of text is this going to be? Dharma projita kaitavotra. All dharma that is motivated by personal gain is rejected here. And that includes both the great promises that dominated his early works, There's a promise that you find in the Vedas. That promise is, if you're dharmic, if you do your duties, if you show gratitude through the right rituals, you will enjoy happiness within this world. It's a promise that's said to bring someone to a point of evolving to the next step, right? You know, sometimes I think of this example of, like, in India, sometimes parents want to move to a place like the United States. And because they're concerned for the economic opportunities that their child will have when they're growing up. And so if there's a young child, 5, 6 years old, and the parents are saying, now we're going to move to America. And the child's going to be like, oh, I don't want to move to America. All my friends are here. And then the parents have to, if the parents say, yes, but because the economic opportunities will be better for you there, the child has no context to understand that. It doesn't relate to the desire within their heart at all. So the parents have to say something that will relate to the desires of the child in order to motivate them, and they'll give them a promise, right? Well, when we go to America, we'll be able to go to Disneyland, right? And the child, oh, really? Oh, yeah, you'll be so happy, you know? You're going to be so happy there. We'll go to Disneyland. So the child's like, okay. And then, and that becomes the lower level truth that they're receiving, but enough to motivate them to take the next step, right? So there's a false promise, in a sense, that you're going to find complete happiness through karma kanda, through doing the rituals and the sacrifices, Vedic sacrifices, being pious, doing your duty. You'll find happiness within the material realm. That's a false promise, in a sense. Vyasadeva saying, I'm not going to make any of those promises in this book, right? And there's another false promise that you find in the Upanishads, that I'm going to find Atma supersidity, complete satisfaction in the self, through jnana, right? Through renunciation. Here he's saying, I'm not going to make those promises. So let's continue. All dharma that is motivated by personal gain is rejected here. And that includes both the great promises that dominated his earlier works, the promise of happiness through worldly success found in the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, the promise of the bliss of impersonal liberation found in the Jnana Kanda of the Upanishads. Those were steps in spiritual evolution, but they were never the final destination. This message is for those who have grown tired of approaching God for the things of this world in karma, who are awakening to the idea of their place within the absolute rather than as the absolute, and who have transcended the resistance to knowing the absolute truth as a person. It is for those who simply want the truth without conditions, the nirmat saranam satam, the most sincere, the non-envious, the ones who are ready to meet the absolute without bargaining. And what does the Srimad Bhagavatam promise them? Not partial peace, not temporary relief, but tapa trayon mulanam, the truth that uproots suffering at the root, right? He says this text is sufficient in itself, and the process is not complicated. Simply hear it with attention and care, and the Lord establishes himself in the heart. Then, as if to remove any lingering doubt about where the Bhagavatam stands among all his other sacred texts, Vyasadeva offers a metaphor in the third verse. Ready for the third verse? Text number 3. O expert and thoughtful people, let's say, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of the Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including the liberated souls. Right? We're going to hear stories. We're going to hear about Krishna with girls running around, love, crying, you know. Is that material consciousness? No. The liberated souls take interest in this, because this love is in transcendence. It's not the love of this material world. He compares the entire Vedic tradition to a great wish-fulfilling tree. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the Vedanta Sutra, the Mahabharata, the Puranas, all are branches of that tree. But the Srimad Bhagavatam, he says, is nigama kalpa taror galitam palam, the fully ripened fruit, meaning the earlier texts spoke truly, but not completely. They hinted, but they did not fully disclose. They contained devotion, but kept it restrained. Here, finally, the fruit is ripened, and its sweetness is complete. Even liberated souls, Vyasadeva tells us, those already free from bondage, keep returning to taste it again and again, not for liberation, but for love. Through these first 3 verses, Vyasadeva has erected 2 unshakable pillars at the very entrance to the Bhagavatam. First, the absolute truth is not merely an idea or energy, but a person, and that person is Krishna. And second, the Srimad Bhagavatam will now speak of that truth without compromise. These opening verses are weighty by design, the truth declared in 3 lines and anchored with Vedic authority. And next, Vyasadeva will change keys. He moves from cosmic philosopher to sacred storyteller, because truth may be realized through philosophy, but it enters the heart through human lives. Any questions about those first 3 verses? Yes. Let me get the microphone to you. There we go.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So, just one thing here. Just you quoted that it said says that one who actually only studies this text with sincerity.
Yeah.
So, in return, the consequences, the Supreme Absolute Truth, Krishna, establishes Himself in the heart. So, my question would be: Krishna is already in the heart as Paramatma. Yeah, so like we can say in one sense is established. But so could you explain then how does he's already established, he's already Paramatma, super soul in the heart of all living entities. How does he further establishes himself in the heart of a living entity?
Well, for that we could go to the commentaries, and we really should study those. But certainly we can understand that something awakens in the heart, right? There's love of Krishna that awakens in the heart. There's feelings of, I may have Paramatma in my heart, but have no awareness of that. But when he says Krishna is established in the heart, that means the feelings for Krishna and the awareness of Krishna is established in their heart. That arises in one. It's there in an unawakened state, but that awakens through here in Bhagavatam. Is that right? Okay? Yes? All right. All right. Any other questions before we move on? We're at a crucial place right here, and I want to share this. I was sharing this image before. Let me pull it up again. This scene here is the sages in the forest called Naimisharanya. Naimisharanya, I guess if we're going to get in a car and try to drive there, it'd probably take maybe like only 6 hours. Have you been there?
On the way, not really.
Okay. Let's think of Vyasadeva now thinking like a writer, thinking like he's writing a movie script. How's he going to share his message now? His mission is that I've been unclear in my texts. I've never clearly defined bhakti or divine love as the highest goal or the highest evolution in life. Now I've got to share that, and I've got to share it through a story. How do I frame this message? He could start anywhere, right? He made his 3-verse declaration. That was clear, and he was very direct. But now how is he going to tell the story? And he does it in a very interesting way. He tells the story of a gathering of sages. They've gathered at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, the coming age of darkness. They're all students of Vyasadeva's works, but they're coming from different points of view. And they're all trying to work together to bring some kind of auspiciousness into this dark age of Kali. But they feel they're getting nowhere. They all sense that we're not accomplishing it. And they're beginning to doubt their own understanding. And it's beginning to become clear that we're confused as to what is the essence of Vyasadeva's works. And so that's the perfect place to begin. right? It's the perfect way to show that all kind of great souls, all kind of qualified souls may read these texts and be confused as to what is their essence. So Vyasadeva is going to put that right in the front, and he's going to illustrate what it is. He's going to give answers to their questions right at the very beginning of the book. He's going to spend the rest of the 18,000 verses establishing it and exemplifying it and showing how that message plays out throughout the Bhagavatam. So I'll read again a bit of what I've written here. Along the banks of the Gomati River, fires burned steadily beneath the forest canopy as the chanting of Vedic mantras rose from the assembled sages. They had come from different lineages and practiced different disciplines. Some were ritualists, some contemplative renunciates, but all were followers of the vast Vedic tradition. All were learned, disciplined, and sincere, and all were uneasy. They had gathered at the threshold of a new age, the dawn of the age of Kali, knowing that the world was about to change. Human life would grow short. People would become quarrelsome, misdirected, unlucky, and above all, their minds would be disturbed. Faced with this grim outlook, one concern pressed upon their hearts. In an age like Kali, how will people find authentic spiritual growth? How will the path stay open and reachable for those born into confusion? And how could they be of help? Yet as their rituals and prayers went on, they began to sense that their efforts were not landing. And as their bodies became tinged with the smoke of the ritual fires, they felt that a similar haze had settled over their minds. They spoke together and reviewed what they knew. They realized that each of them drew from the same body of scripture, yet had arrived at different conclusions about its heart. They wanted to serve together, but felt that a united vision of what truly matters most remained just out of reach. Their difficulty was not a lack of sacred knowledge. It was a lack of shared certainty about the heart of that knowledge. Over time, their attention settled on one person. Though they came from differing perspectives, they shared a trust in his understanding and sensed in him the clarity that had eluded them. His name was Sutta Goswami. Right? So in this picture, we see Sutta seated here as the speaker. O respected Sutta, the sages approached him and said, O respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free of all vice. You are well versed in all the categories of Vedic texts, for you have studied them under proper guidance and can explain them clearly. As the eldest among the learned followers of Vedanta, you are acquainted with the knowledge of Vyasadeva, and you are also familiar with other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge. And because you have served with simplicity and purity, your gurus have endowed you with the blessings bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can share with us the confidential teachings that you have learned from them. Therefore, drawing on your many years of experience, please explain to us in a way we can truly understand what you have concluded to be the highest good for all people. There are many varieties of scripture, and in each there are many prescribed duties. They can be learned only after years of study in their various divisions. Therefore, O sage, please select the essence of all these teachings and share it for the good of every living being, so that by such instruction, the heart may attain Atma Suprasidhiti, complete satisfaction of the self. Okay? So here Vyasadeva is painting a picture for us. Learned sages, students of Vyasadeva's texts, all sincere and qualified in their own way, but still confused. They're not all on the same page, and they want to get on the same page, and they trust the Sutta Goswami. They trust him because of his character. They trust him because of his learning. They trust him because of the depth and the blessings that he's received. And they're saying, you please show us the essence of it all. Show us what it's really all about, so that people in this future age of Kali can achieve this state of Atma Suprasidhiti, of complete satisfaction in the self. Right? They ask some more questions. Specifically, they ask about Krishna. But these are the essential questions that they're asking right up front. In a few earnest sentences, the sages had placed their hopes before Sutta. They wanted to know what brings the highest good for all people. What is the essence of all of Vyasadeva's teachings? Is it karma? Is it jnana? Is it bhakti? With these answers, they hoped to understand how the human heart might find complete satisfaction, even in the coming age of Kali. In choosing this place and moment as his opening scene, Vyasadeva shows a storyteller's instinct. He gathers the wisest of the wise, allows their sincerity to shine, but also lets their uncertainty surface. Their inability to pinpoint the essence of his teachings perfectly sets the stage for him to provide the answer. With all eyes turning to Sutta, one question rises above all others. What will he say? All eyes turned to Sutta. Okay, are you ready? We got about 6 minutes to hear his answer. But we also have tomorrow. Okay. Maybe I'll just set up for tomorrow, because I'll read what I've written, because there's a few verses that come at the beginning of the next chapter, chapter 2, that give us, that begin to paint the picture of how Bhagavatam is going to unfold. Sutta Goswami paused. With folded palms and bowed head, he began by honoring his guru, who is none other than Vyasadeva's own son. I take shelter of Shukadeva Goswami, the son of Vyasadeva, and the guru of the sages. He is beyond the usual rites and reforms that shape religious life. Having assimilated the deepest truths of the Vedas, he was fully satisfied within himself. Yet out of compassion for those struggling to cross the darkest regions of material existence, he spoke the Srimad Bhagavatam, the most confidential of the Puranas, the essence of all Vedic knowledge, lighting the lamp of spiritual understanding. O sages, your questions are worthy, for they concern Sri Krishna and are therefore relevant to the welfare of the world. Questions of this kind lead to Atma Suprasidhiti, the complete satisfaction of the self. Having honored both his guru and the questions placed before him, Sutta answered with a single defining Sanskrit verse, which we'll hide for now. So he's saying, okay, these are wonderful questions that you're asking, but for me to answer them, first let me offer my respects unto my guru. My guru is Shukadeva Goswami. Shukadeva Goswami was a completely otherworldly sage. Everybody knows this, right? And so he's glorifying Shukadeva Goswami as someone who's all the answers are manifest in his awareness. And he's saying that I once heard him speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to repeat what I heard from him. Right? He said that's where all this information will come from. And I'm going to read you, now I'll tell you the verse that he says. The question again was, what is the essence of all of Vyasadeva's texts? What is the highest good for all mankind? What leads to Atma Suprasidhiti? Is it the pious works and rituals of karma kanda that gives material blessings? Is that the highest good? Because if you read the Vedas, it sounds like that's the highest good, right? If you read the Upanishads, it sounds like the highest good is to renounce this world and find moksha, find freedom from its entanglement, right? Is it these things? And here's the answer. He says, Savai Pungsa Paro Dharmo. The Savai Pungsa, for all humanity, Paro Dharmo, the highest dharma, Yato Bhakti Adhoksaje, is bhakti being offered unto Adhoksaja, the supreme which is beyond the reach of our senses, right? So a very direct answer. He didn't beat around the bush. He came out and he said it straight. The highest dharma for all humanity, not just for this kind of person or that kind of person, but Savai Pungsa, for everyone, is bhakti. Savai Pungsa Paro Dharmo, Yato Bhaktir Adhoksaje, Ahoitaki Apratiyata Yayatma Suprasidhiti. This bhakti, this love that's being offered to God, it must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. It needs to be pure. This is what bhakti is. It's not done because I want the things of this world. It's not performed because I want freedom from the sufferings of this world. I want moksha. None of that can be mixed into it to achieve the complete satisfaction of the self, this Atma Suprasidhiti. So we have about 3 minutes left. Tomorrow, we're going to hear, in a sense, the sages are going to come back and say, but what about karma? But what about jnana? And then they're going to ask, what is the absolute truth? And so we'll cover those questions tomorrow. But any questions before we move on? Yes, Sanathanji.
Isn't excuse me, isn't exactly what you just said about bhakti something very similar Shri Krishna has said to the gopis in Ras Panchadhyay?
That he says that what you've offered me is entirely pure and free of any motive?
Yeah, like that's how he describes, I think, like what truly loving him means, like
Oh yes, because the gopis,
without conditions.
they talk about different kind of lovers and so on.
Yeah.
But real love means that there's no condition, right? Yes, yeah, there's something similar there. Any other last question before we end for today? Yes. There you go.
Thank you for,
Microphone.
thank you for your sharing your wisdom. Could you elaborate on the two words from that verse you just mentioned, ahaitukia pratihata?
I can do that, and I'll do it better if I read what I wrote on it, because it'll be more concise. Pure bhakti, he says, must be ahaitiki, without motive. It is not driven by the desire for material improvement or even liberation from the world. When devotion is mixed with these aims, it may still be elevating, but it is no longer pure. When love is genuine, it does not bargain. Sutta adds another defining word, apratiyata, unobstructed. This kind of devotion cannot be influenced by externals. It is not dependent on favorable conditions. It does not collapse in hardship or diminish in success. And it requires no particular social standing, mental clarity, physical strength, or religious environment. When divine love is real, it moves forward through every circumstance. This point matters in the context of Kali Yuga. The sages had gathered because they feared that the people of this age would be distracted, misguided, short-lived, and mentally disturbed. That's us, people. Sutta's answer meets this concern directly. The very conditions that weaken other spiritual paths cannot obstruct bhakti. In an age where so much will feel unstable, bhakti will remain accessible and dynamic. This type of love, Sutta says, delivers atma supersiddhiti, complete satisfaction of the self. It marks the complete end of inner restlessness, the return of the soul to its natural state of contentment. When the heart is no longer searching for fulfillment externally or even escape, devotion becomes effortless. Love is no longer a strategy. It is simply what the soul does. Is that all right? Did that answer your question? Something more?
How to apply it practically?
Well, that's a big question.
Like, we want to say...
Chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we want to chant, but it is broken names. It's not unbroken. Like,
Well,
one day you feel like it, the other you don't feel like it. One day you have voice, the other day you don't have voice, and you're trying to chant, but your mind is like,
I think you're doing quite well, actually. But it matures. It matures. It awakens. It's done. It's done. The practice of bhakti are done as practice in the beginning, and as they mature, the same practices are done no longer as practice, but in their perfected state. So you're doing all those practices, and they're maturing in you, for sure. Thank you also very much. We'll be back to conclude tomorrow. So there'll be some really important things. And thank you so much. Please stick around for today's Kirtan. And please also, just very quickly, we have a Bhakti immersion table set up outside here. There'll be tomorrow's the last day of the festival, then there's a day off, and then there's a Bhakti immersion taking place. I'll be taking part in it. Yogi Churu, who's been teaching yoga, will be taking part in it. So please check that out if you're interested, and it'll be nice to do that with you all. Thank you. Hari Om Tat Sat.